Hello, my name is Liyanne, host of Girls on Film, where women are talking about life through the lens of film by answering one question per session. And this session, we're going to be answering the question of what is your favorite female film and why? And the film can be a female narrative or female lead or both. And it'll be interesting to see what the choices are, because I started this because the female voice is underrepresented in film. And when you look at the Bechdel test, which is a pretty blunt test to test female representation, originally it was designed for fiction, but it's also applied to film. And the way they decide female representation is if there are two females or more discussing something other than a man. That's it. So with that said, I'm going to welcome Katy and Jocelyn, who have joined me today. And we're going to start with Katy's answer to this question. What is your favourite female film and why?
Thank you, Liyanne. So my favourite film goes back to 1983 when I was a very young teenager. It was a film I'd gone to the cinema on my own to see, and I sat in the middle of the cinema on my own, enjoying this amazing film. Now, the film was directed by Barbra Streisand, and to this day, she is still the only female, and the first and only female, in fact, to ever have won a Golden Globe for Best Director. And it goes on, it kind of continues the theme that Liyanne just sort of mentioned about women consistently being locked out of those top sort of global type awards. Now, YENTL is all about a young female who lost her father, wanted an education and couldn't because she was a girl. So she dressed up as a boy to continue her studies. To me, I loved the film, loved all the symbolism that came out of it, and was saddened with the fact that she had no right to an education. And what surprises me even more, that all these years later, Barbra Streisand is still the first and only female to have ever won a Globe for Best Director. I'll now hand over to Liyanne to answer the question as well.
Thank you, Katy. It's really interesting that you've chosen YENTL, which is gender and, gender busting. And also that Barbra Streisand got the award in a arena where females are underrepresented, and that the narrative of the film is also about, you know, having to be representing as a male in order to do what she dreamed of doing. It's interesting. And also has a parallel with the film that I have chosen as my favourite female film. And it's based on the narrative, which is a true story of three African American females who were known as human computers, and they were mathematicians who rose to prominent positions within NASA during the 1960s in the US space race against Russia to get man to the moon. It has three actresses that I really admire. Taraji Henson plays, I guess you would call her the main lead, because a lot of the story focuses on her, and she plays a woman called Katherine Johnson. And Katherine Johnson was John Glenn, who was the astronaut, personally asked for Katherine to review all of the calculations for the mission, which, you know, that's a huge vote of confidence, right? So he wanted her to double check everything. Another actress is Octavia Spencer, who's one of my favorite African American actresses. She plays Dorothy Vaughn, and she pretty much, nails it by setting up the whole computing system. And then you have Janelle Monáe, who I'd known as a musician up to that point, musician after my own heart, because she kind of channels Morris Day and Prince in her work, and she really amazed me in her abilities as an actress. She did that. She played the role really well. Yeah, so that's my choice. Both because you have inspiring women, real life women that were instrumental in a big dream, not just for them, but for their country and for the world, you know, getting man to the moon. And also because segregation was still very much in place at that point. So for them to rise to those positions was a real feat and so inspiring. And when I saw this film, I thought, oh my God, this is the only film I know of that, and you know, I'm not a spring chicken. This is the only film I know of that shows African American women in a positive light, in an intellectually superior light, and also as role models for others, and also looked up to by white men. And I don't know of any other film that does this. I don't know of any other true life narrative that has been brought to the screen that shows this reality of African American experience, or even the Black women's experience, right? Because I know a lot of really clever Black women, Jocelyn being one of them. So, you know, it's not unusual, and it's great to see this brought to screen. And I wondered, how come this is the only one that I've come across? Why? Why is that? And then I realized, because, you know, filmmaking is all about money or other agendas, typically. That's how they get bankrolled. And I'm thinking, how did this slip under the radar? Well, it didn't slip under the radar, did it? Because the States and also the world were on a recruitment drive to get women into what they call STEM subjects, right? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And this was a vehicle to do that. So even though there is that underlying agenda, right, it's a recruitment drive, who cares? At least it got the positive narrative and film to the screen and to the wider world. So on that note, Jocelyn, my lovely, what is your answer to this question? Favorite female film and why?
Right. Thank you very much, Liyanne. This question actually really got me thinking, and I really I had to make a choice. And then actually there are quite a few films that I still have yet to see. So I am actually going to take myself back to the early 1990s. I went to the cinema by myself to watch a film at the Barbican. I still remember actually going to the cinema and watching this movie. The movie is called Orlando, and it is a film that features actress Tilda Swinton, who's an actress who I greatly admire because she transcends. I think she's an individual that can play both male and female. She is somebody who's lived a life, and she challenges, maybe not intentionally, but she does challenge the work that she chooses and that she does. She's not typecast into roles. She takes strong roles. She takes roles as an actress that you know, quite sort of edgy. However, this film, Orlando, the character, it's actually based on the book by Virginia Woolf, but it was adapted for movies. Orlando is a character, starts off in the movie as a male member of Elizabeth I's court. It's played by Tilda Swinton as a man. and operating within Elizabeth I's court. Elizabeth I is one of Elizabeth I's favourites because he's a beautiful man, young man, and she used to love having beautiful men around her. Actually, but the character is actually female. So the story is that the character, Tilda Swinton's character, Orlando, goes through the film. She drops through different centuries as a man, but actually she's a woman. And it's actually it's really fascinating. And I remember being quite stunned. The acting was superb. The delivery was fantastic. It's often the character was looking for love, and obviously transcending that through the different centuries, all the different sort of the centuries, all the sort of ways that you have to behave in society, but through different centuries, different continents. You know, they obviously Elizabeth I is in England, but there's centuries where they're in France, in the royal palace. She jumps into another century where she's in, I would say it's kind of Jordan, sort of Lawrence of Arabia, that sort of area of the world. But it was absolutely fascinating. It takes your breath away. But the character is always looking for love. But they change. Their sex changes, but they have to operate. They're operating within the confines of society. Absolutely fascinating. Superbly delivered by Tilda Swinton. She develops a love interest where she is the female and she is the love interest of the male character is Billy Zane, a very young Billy Zane. It's exquisitely shot, very lush, but also it intertwines kind of Virginia Woolf's, you know, her literary sort of delivery. Really superb. I saw that movie in 1993. It's in my 20s, early 20s, and I was totally struck. Never seen anything like it. And so that is my choice of movie. So I throw it to Katy. You know, what do you think of that?
So what do I think, Jocelyn, of your film?
Yes.
And your film choice? I haven't seen Orlando, and now I'm really intrigued. So I think I'm going to have to look it up and watch it tonight on Oplex. It sounds amazing to be able to kind of flick between those different genders and those different sort of centuries and kind of play those sort of roles and stuff. Because of course it isn't just putting on an outfit to be a male. It is about all the physical characteristics. It's the way you're perceived, the way you approach things and stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to kind of, seeing it and then feeding back properly, I suppose, once I have seen it. And, you know, looking at the different sort of insights and the different sort of characters and stuff, I think it sounds absolutely amazing. So, yeah, brilliant. So, Liyanne, I'll hand over to you now. What do you think of the film that I chose?
You actually need to give me feedback on what you think of the film I chose as well. It's not just
Jocelyn. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day, but actually getting back to it, I love the film that you chose, Liyanne. I first saw it on an airplane, funny enough, going from London to Perth in Australia. And I was so intrigued and at the same time saddened that film took 50 odd years or 50 plus years before it actually came out for people to realize that it wasn't the astronauts. It was those three women that had the courage to be able to step up against all the negative kind of impacts they were faced with. One, to be proven, they had to prove themselves that they were actually equal and better than their sort of equal male counterparts. Two, they were lucky enough that they had a senior sort of manager and the astronaut who saw their skill set, trusted them, and knew that if they were going to succeed, they needed those three women together to be able to actually make this all successful. The other bit that got me about that film as well, and you mentioned it earlier, Liyanne, about segregation, stuff like that. It was the women used to have to run, what was it, a mile? Just to go to the washrooms at the time, which was absolutely just disgraceful. I was really saddened by the basic things that perhaps I never grew up as a white sort of female and never experienced racism in that sort of way. But at the end of the day, 1969, the rocket did land on the moon, and it was because of those three women, not the astronauts that were actually flying the ship, not the people on the guard sort of monitoring its travel. It was the three women with their calculations, using computers that in a way that had never been used before, and all their calculations and stuff. So I thought it was absolutely brilliant film. So Liyanne, I ask you the same question. What did you think of the film that I chose and the film that Jocelyn chose?
Well, I find it very interesting. Thanks, Katy, for all that feedback. I'm thrilled that you've seen Hidden Figures and that it made an impact on you like it did on me. So YENTL and Orlando. I haven't seen either of these films. I am aware of YENTL and I believe I've seen parts of it. Orlando I've never heard of before at all. So like Katy, I'm going to be having a look into that. And what I'm really intrigued by is that for those people watching, we do not swap notes about what we've chosen before we get on here, right? So what I'm really intrigued by is that both of you have chosen films that are women that have presented themselves as men in their life. And then I've chosen a film that is about women making it in a man's world, right? So it's really, really intriguing. Like I said, I mean, Barbra Streisand is, you know, I love her work. Um, and she does really sensitive and meaningful narratives that are about life and at a much deeper level than a lot of films. Tilda Swinton, I love as an actress. She is fascinating to me, you know, really fascinating. The film that springs to mind with me with her is Last Lovers Left Alive, where she plays opposite, oh, I can see his face. Who's the guy that plays Loki? British actor? You guys know?
Oh gosh.
Tom Hiddleston.
That's
Tom Hiddleston.
really going to annoy me.
That's
it. Tom Hiddleston. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Tom Hiddleston.
So
yes.
she plays opposite him in
yes.
that movie, and it's quite an indie underground, and it's really good. So yes, I am going to be looking up Orlando as well to go and watch. And on that note, Jocelyn, I saw School of Rock. Going back to one of our previous sessions. Yeah, I saw School of Rock. It was on television, and I just happened to catch it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, loved it.
You loved it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So over to you to talk about your impressions of our choices tonight.
Thank you. Well, I'm totally blown away actually this evening to hear your film choices. Hidden Figures is a film that I've actually been meaning to watch. So I haven't seen. I know of the story behind the movie, and I have read about Katherine Johnson, the scientist, the mathematician. And she was awarded sort of a life achievement award by Barack Obama in his last term. So that is a movie I dearly want to view. And YENTL, I have watched YENTL, and I agree totally with you both. Barbra Streisand definitely has quite a rare ability to deliver really exquisite work, but it touches on sort of sentiments, the delicate things of life. but she pulls it out, so it's like a flower. It's right there for you to see. And I think she does that. She has that capacity with all her work. And that really leaves quite a message. It leaves quite a strong message with you, sort of emotionally. It's not what you go to watch a movie for one thing, or because the narrative and how it's advertised. But actually, Barbra Streisand has this ability. She gives you the kind of innards, the emotional depth of things that you weren't necessarily prepared for. So it definitely leaves you contemplating quite a lot. And also it opens your mind, because with the YENTL you're really seeing all the sort of the nitty-gritty of the life of what the character is having to deal with. And I do remember that movie. So I was quite sort of blown away, and was really pleased to hear that Katy, that was her choice. So yes. But also I was quite struck, Katy saying that Barbra Streisand is the only female director to win the Golden Globe. I'm just kind of like, hang on a moment. You mean how is that possible? Yeah. We definitely have quite a long way to go, to travel, I think, to sort of be up there, to sort of have the ability to show our work, or to develop our work on the same par as men. So yeah, that's definitely how I feel about that. But yeah, love both your choices. Thank you. That's my thoughts.
I'm just going to reframe something you just said there very quickly, Jocelyn, and if I may. And that is, I don't think it's a matter of redeveloping or developing our work. It's actually it getting the recognition it deserves, because there's a lot of female work that is fantastic. It just gets unrecognized. It's not recognized to the same level as the men's work, and that has to do with, obviously, would be to do with the power structures. So it's about getting more women into those structures, or even building our own that goes toe to toe with the existing structure. Who knows, whichever way round. But yeah, there's a lot of worthwhile work that's being made, not just by females, but also underrepresented communities. It just doesn't get the recognition that it deserves, and that's starting to change, and that's possibly reflecting that the power structures around the world are starting to change. So they're having to recognise work that's been underrepresented until now. Yeah. So unless either of you two have anything else to add, I will wrap up for this week. So very quickly, do either of you two have something else you want to add?
Not from me. Thank you.
Not from me. But I will be checking out. I will be checking out Hidden Figures movie. But that's it for me.
Yes, Jocelyn, sorry, thank you for reminding me. Yes, you need to watch that film, lady.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you'll love it. It's a great film. Yeah, so that's it for this week. Favorite female film and why? So we had YENTL, Hidden Figures, and Orlando. So please join in the conversation with your favorite female film and why, and add anything that you want to add to our discussion tonight. But for now, that's cut.